All right, let's call the meeting to order. Can we get a roll call?
Yep. Vice Chairman Davenport.
Present.
Board Member Hazelwood.
Here.
Chairman Hinchelwood.
Present.
Board Member Hotchkiss.
Present.
Board Member Payne. Board Member Roman.
Here.
Board Member Winters.
Here.
Chairman, we have a quorum.
Great. All right. The policy of the Commonwealth of Virginia and the City of Suffolk is clearly stated in the Virginia Wetlands Act as follows: shall preserve and prevent the spoliation and destruction of wetlands within its jurisdiction while accommodating necessary economic development in a manner consistent with wetlands preservation. You see, the next thing we have is, I guess, election of officers. It is July, correct?
Yes, that's correct. And please excuse me, I have to get the clicker for the screen.
Oh. Okay. Got to have a clicker. All right. So we got to elect 3 officers, right? Chairman, Vice Chairman, Secretary.
That's correct.
So we open it for nominations. Is that the way this goes?
Yes.
I nominate Chairman Hazelwood to continue in his position.
Second.
Okay, so the motion is to re-elect Board Member Hazelwood as chairman for the upcoming year. Hinchelwood. I apologize, Hinchelwood.
I was wondering if
I just passed the act pretty quick there, man.
you have
The
a new
names are
job.
so similar.
Slip of the tongue.
You're probably
You're
doing well.
excited, buddy.
Did I hear it right?
Okay, so let me restate the motion. The motion is to re-elect Board Member Hinchelwood as chairman for the upcoming year. We're going to do this by a voice vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. So the motion passes with a vote of 6-0. Congratulations.
I'd like to nominate my friend Darius for Vice Chairman this year.
Second.
We have a motion to re-elect Board Member Davenport as the Vice Chairman for the upcoming year. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Okay, the motion passes with a vote of 6-0.
And now we need to nominate Grace as our secretary. Right?
Okay, so we have a motion to elect staff member Grace Brazil as the secretary for the Wetlands Board for the upcoming year. We'll do this by another voice vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no.
No.
So the motion passes with a voice vote of 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Till next year. Approval of the minutes. Anybody have any comments, questions, problems with the minutes from our previous meeting?
Motion. Second.
Because it was pretty short.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the previous minutes from the June meeting. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Okay, so the motion passes with a vote of 6-0.
All right. Well, tonight we do have a public hearing. So I guess we, VMRC 23-0690 submitted by Ryan Walsh of the James River Association. So I'll just turn it over to you instead of reading through this and let you, I think most of us have visited your site.
Sure.
Let's,
Hey there.
let's hear it.
My name is Ryan Walsh. I'm the Senior Coastal Restoration Manager for the James River Association. Just a quick background about us. We're the only 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to conserving the entire James River watershed. We're based out of Richmond, but I have I'm based out of our Williamsburg office where we can serve the lower James. So the tidal reaches basically from Richmond all the way down to the mouth of the river in Hampton. So I'm here today because we have a homeowner cost share program to incentivize installing living shorelines. And Mr. Jones and Mr. Eubanks have applied for our program and are interested in installing a project. So I've designed a living shoreline for them, and we'd like to get it permitted. All right, so here is the site located between 5044 and 5046 Bay Circle. It's located directly where Hoffler Creek enters the James River. Both parcels are on Hoffler Creek, and then Mr. Jones's property wraps around to the main stem of the James. There is an extant marsh that still exists on site, but it's continuously getting hammered by really large storms. They're both very concerned about erosion and losing property and would like to pursue a living shoreline there in order to preserve what they have. Here is the design that I have. On the northern end of the site, we're proposing using large exoforms, which are 3D printed oyster structures. Each one is roughly 3 feet, is roughly a 3-foot cube and would weigh roughly 2,200 pounds. We feel this gives us the same sort of lift that a granite sill would, while at the same time providing more habitat. From there, we're going to backfill and plant with native marsh grasses, Spartina alterniflora, and we are not extending any part of the project below mean low water. So here we have some examples of exoforms. Because they are 3D printed, there's no mold for each of these, so each shape is tailor-made for each specific site. Natrix is based out of Raleigh, North Carolina right now. They're looking to move to the Hampton Roads. They've tested their designs both on Mob Jack Bay on the East River as well as the Gulf of Mexico, where everything sort of has stood up the storms just fine. And then the more sheltered part of the creek, of Hoffler Creek, we're looking to use oyster castles. These are precast oyster structures. They're made by Allied Concrete in Charlottesville. They're used by many environmental organizations down here in the lower James. I was at this site the other day doing some replanting. This is on the Nansemond River here in Suffolk, and this is just after 1 year. They're covered in 2- and 3-inch oysters. And here's just a little blurb about Natrix. They use 3D printed concrete. They can accommodate many different shapes. They were recommended to us by the Chesapeake Bay Foundation. They've done some work in the Nansemond with them, testing these shapes out. And the Elizabeth River Project in Norfolk is looking to use exoforms on some of their larger projects as well. Here's one of our living shorelines off of Brewers Creek. This is what it looked like after only a year. Everywhere behind the 1/3 bushel oyster shell bags, none of those grasses were there previously, so they filled in really nicely. And then here it is after 2 years, just completely filled in. Can't even tell that there was an erosion problem there. Here's just some notes about construction. We intend to plant the Spartina in 18-inch centers, which is pretty standard. And we'll work to address that we have 85% coverage after 2 full growing seasons. We intend to stack the oyster castles 4 high just to provide additional protection against any nor'easters or anything like that. We will be getting sand from Vulcan. That's a pretty standard sand source for living shorelines. And any damage we cause to existing wetlands we'll fix and replace since we'll be replanting anyways. We also intend to use a front end, well, not front end loader, sort of like a backhoe to place the exoforms because each one does weigh 2,200 pounds. All the oyster castles will be placed by hand. Cool. And if you guys have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer those.
What kind of time frame are we looking at? If
Time
we
frame
get
we're
this
looking
thing
at,
approved, what is your agenda there?
So we can theoretically do installation as soon as we receive permission to. What's a little tricky is getting on a contractor's timeline. I was on the phone with Environmental Quality Resources. They're the contractor we're intending to use. We don't have anything signed with them yet since we don't have full permission. And I was chatting with their one of their vice presidents about what he anticipates the timeline would be for this project, and he said 4 to 6 weeks. Regardless, we would want to get everything finished before the fall. We want to give plants as much a head start as possible going into the winter. This grant is also funded, this program is also funded by grant money from the Virginia Environmental Endowment, and those funds do sunset November 1st, so we would like to be completely finished by then regardless.
And what's the status of those funds right now?
This grant is funded by the Virginia Environmental Endowment. It's a $1 million grant that's awarded to the James River Association and the Elizabeth River Project. We've had that grant for a few years now. We're looking.
You have the grant already?
Yeah, we have the grant in place. We're looking for additional funding to keep the program going through 2026. But we've been working on this current grant since 2019. The funds expired on November 1st.
But you do have funds left to cover this project?
We do, yes.
Okay.
Well, I guess that's all the questions for Mr. Walsh. So open a public hearing, and anybody that has anything, by time to speak, for or against it? Nobody? All right, well, I guess we can close the public hearing then, right?
And let me turn this toward Sean. I believe you have to open a chance for any opposition. Is that correct?
Yes, and
Like-
I do think that's what
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman said, but it would be helpful to specify.
Would anybody like to oppose this project? Anybody like to support this project? All right. So now we can close the public hearing and have a discussion and debate and vote. Anybody got anything to discuss?
Yeah, just a curiosity question. To get the materials down there, do you have to destroy any wetlands to do that? If you bring in a backhoe, or I'm not even exactly sure how you're going to do this, but
It might be hard to see. We have you can sort of see the pink dashed outline. That's where we're going to intend to access the project area through
Right.
Mr. Jones's yard.
yeah.
And we are intending to move forward with Environmental Quality Resources. They have a piece of equipment referred to as a rock thrower. It's being used by the Chesapeake Bay Foundation and Elizabeth River Project on a project in Portsmouth right now, but they're using it to remotely deposit sand up to 100 yards away. So we will be able to really pinpoint where we can place sand without doing lots of damage. They're referring to that as a sand thrower. I believe it can move about 8 cubic yards of sand in a minute, which definitely saves time on moving a wheelbarrow by hand. So.
All right, any other discussions? I think it's a great project.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to approve this project based on the staff's recommendations.
Second.
And I apologize. I'm going to turn toward our Assistant City Attorney just to ensure that the chairman, is he able to make a motion?
Probably not, you're right, sorry.
It's okay, that's why I'm here.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve VMRC 230690.
A second.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve request VMRC 23-0690 as presented. So we'll go ahead and call the roll. Vice Chairman Davenport,
Yes.
Board Member Hazelwood,
Yes.
Chairman Hinchelwood,
Yes.
Board Member Hotchkiss,
Yes.
Board Member Vroman,
Yes.
and Board Member Winters.
Yes.
The motion passes with a vote of 6-0.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We look forward to the updates.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's see, restoration hearings, none, permit extensions, none, old business, new business.
Yes, so we have two items for the new business. Let me go. The first one is at the previous meeting, you guys had requested the City of Suffolk Wetlands Board Joint Permit Application Submittal Checklist. That city staff review these requests by before bringing it before you. That list of criteria has been included in the agenda. So if anyone has any questions before moving on to the legislative update.
You exercise tonight. Legislative update.
Okay, so if no one has any questions, we'll go right into the legislative update. This is related to the Marine Resources Commission Local Wetlands Board's permit application specifically to public notice. And we have staff Sean Dolan, the Assistant City Attorney, who will provide the presentation.
And if it suits the board, I'll present from the lectern there. I'll be right there. So the good news is that this part of the meeting today will be brief. The first slide, there's really only one matter that is going to directly affect this board and affect the city, and it'll be on the first slide. The other matters really will relate to VRMC and DEQ, but these are things that have changed this year. So this particular Senate bill, Ms. Brazil was kind enough to add to your materials at the end so you can see what the local ordinance is going to look like. And so that second bullet point, it basically says that localities that already have a wetlands ordinance like Suffolk does are required to update it to match what was in this Senate bill. And really there are only a few provisions that are very different. One is an inclusion of the living shoreline language. Another one says that the chairman's authorized representative can sign the permit and that the permit doesn't need to be notarized. The balance of this really that applies to the city, and that all needs to be done by January of next year. So I'll be working with staff to update both city code, which is where the wetlands ordinance resides, and then the zoning ordinance that refers to it, just to make sure they all line up. So we'll be doing that, working on that together to be sure that that's done by January of next year.
And did I hear you say that the living shoreline permits would then only require a signature of the chairman, not of the board vote?
Any of the permits that are issued by the board can be signed by the chairman or an authorized designee in the event that you were unavailable, for example. Yeah. And there's a living shorelines element that's been in the code for a long time that is now required to be in the ordinance that the city will update to match. The only other thing in the balance in that third bullet that really is going to affect the city directly is notices. It'll be one notice within a 7-day period rather than 2 notices over a 2-week period. The remainder really applies to VRMC related to fisheries and habitat notices to be posted on the Virginia Regulatory Town Hall website. And then that VRMC and this board can email notices of public hearings. So those are all the changes that really will impact this board. The next item, this is House Bill 1950, really directs VRMC to update its guidelines for tidal wetlands mitigation banks, tells them what items that they need to be considering while they're updating that, and directs VRMC to form a stakeholder group for this purpose. And there won't be any city code or UDO amendments required by this legislation. This House Bill 2181 basically exempts use of subaqueous beds where a DEQ Virginia water protection permit has been granted. And it's kind of, for me, the way the statute's written, it's almost written upside down because it prohibits all unlawful activities unless X, Y, Z, PDQ. And in this case, they've just added something else that says if there's going to be some disturbance in the Commonwealth beds, that DEQ can issue a water protection permit. The next bill is Senate Bill 1152, and it directs VRMC to develop procedures to expedite applications for wetlands permits for agencies for the federal government, including, of course, any branch of the armed forces or the United States. And then the final, and I told you it would be brief, just to see if you had any questions about those items in particular. Thank you much.
Thank you. So next action is none. Adjournment. Can we get a motion to adjourn?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Okay, yep. Thank you, everyone.